Well, thank you for joining me today. This webinar targets public service, predominantly municipalities and police law enforcement. But it should have a broader appeal because it is everyone that is part of a community that has a stake. It is 45 minutes long, and there will be an opportunity to pose questions, which I will respond to post-event. The webinar of 2 parts comprises an introduction to the Lionsgate Community Safety Assessment Program, CSAP, and why we feel there is a niche for this unique program in public-private partnership working. In webinar part 1, I make introductions and unpack the CSAP to look at our process. A more detailed insight into these areas is just a call away, and I'm happy to expand in any area, particularly to explain the CSAP in action and why that is a pivotal component as you contemplate the service being offered. Lionsgate Risk Management Group is a leading-edge security and risk management firm that provides a comprehensive suite of superior investigation, intelligence, security, and protection services. Our industry-leading risk management solutions are inspired and informed by the vision and proven experience of our leaders. Our team consists of law enforcement, military, academic, and security industry specialists who have the knowledge, skills, and experience to provide our clients with a superior level of expertise and service. My name is Mike Franklin, and I have over 30 years' experience operating within community safety groups, coming at challenges and recognizing opportunities to sustainably reduce crime and deliver safer communities. I draw on cross-sector experience in law enforcement, municipality community safety, and crime reduction in Canada, the United Kingdom, and Northwest Europe. I have a portfolio which includes dozens of successful community-based partnership projects, not only delivering social, economic, and environmental benefits, but also reducing the personnel, financial, material, and reactive response burdens on public service. The CSAP is unique to Lionsgate Risk Management Group in the private sector, in security in particular. The case studies introduced in a moment are selected projects which in combination provide the proven work's best practice foundation for the Lionsgate CSAP program. Working practice, delivering desired outcomes have been metamorphosed into our product. I'm just providing headlines here, but we'll be posting short case studies on the Lionsgate website for each to expand in particular on value, delivered outcomes, cost benefits, crime and nuisance reduction benefits, appropriate performance measurements, and also focusing on obstacles. One of the biggest challenges in public service approach is avoiding the reinvention of the flat tire. I've long been an advocate for smarter performance measurements to ensure project and program accountability to offset this particular problem. Fundamentally, and through evaluation, you should ask, did it reduce crime and nuisance sustainably or not? Is the community measurably and sustainably safer as a consequence? If it doesn't work, then plot a course for change. Too often, I hear we do it this way because we've always done it this way, or too often I encounter silo strategies. Problem-oriented policing. What I'm trying to do is to redirect a problem-solving mindset to place more emphasis on a solution profile mindset in this product. Crime opportunity profiling of streets, cops. I'm learning from this UK and Northwest Europe pioneering approach, which recognizes the communal crime dimension. Closer to home, the Vancouver downtown east side, where the costly consequences of a social band-aid mentality, late interventions, and a failure to deflect revolving door recidivism means this problem returns day after day. In the city of Surrey, in Newton, King George Boulevard and 72nd Street, we had a proposal which was developed after extensive research, which clearly identifies a correlation between risky facilities, built environment decisions that have not been fully examined for negative impacts, a geographical over-concentration of support services, which makes them accessible, but also attracts a concentration of those disposed to offending. Build it and they will come. Essentially, community crime enablement leading to property crime and crimes against the person. In the United Kingdom, I ran a community safety initiative funding program, and from it demonstrated how catalyzing multiple community projects with seed funding and into a program maximizes holistic value through project overlap by design. In Wetaskiwin, Alberta, our proposal research findings, we discovered in the space of a single day that there were 20 factors contributing to escalating violence in the Wetaskiwin community, and in doing so also established that a number of social support strategies were directly contributing to that increase. Back to the United Kingdom, Blackthorn, Belledge and Semelong housing estates, we had CASPA projects, CASPA standing for Community Safety Partnerships. These are good examples of joined-up partnership working and with extensive community engagement, effectively turning around crime in residential estates. Also in the United Kingdom, the Brackmills Industrial Estate project, which included coherent, considered solutions generating massive public savings on introduction, casualty reductions, boosting economic returns by attracting new facility clients, and with increased employment opportunities. The St James Retail Park Redevelopment Community Project demonstrates how you can take something from a stigmatized criminal hotspot to a safer, feel-good customer choice, with everybody winning. And again, closer to home, the Musqueam and Talasdan First Nations, how successful community outcomes require strong resolve, sustained commitment, continual monitoring and evaluation, and maintenance to move from short-term impacts to sustained impacts. Existing data, including social needs assessments, provide a great data source for shaping solutions. Most reports commissioned in this area fall short on robust holistic recommendations, and that is where the CSAP comes in, following on the heels of the most often seen recommendation from social needs problem profiles, which is to continually review the balance between preventive and enforcement initiatives to address social issues in the community. We employ our research core team to get deep into the weeds on this. And in my experience, crime reduction problem profiles in all areas of public service are heavily weighted on defining the problem and lighter on robust proven works solutions. We would advocate for the Lionsgate Risk Management Group Community Safety Assessment Programme, CSAP, as the next best step option for community safety partnerships and led by municipalities, not only to provide the review of current approaches, available and accessible data, and to balance initiatives, but also to deliver a much broader, all-encompassing municipality crime reduction menu of complementary solutions. In very short summary for this presentation, the process involves Lionsgate applying subject matter expertise to source and then undertake detailed crime and community data analysis and review socioeconomic characteristics, including existing social data and reports. Our business and investigative intelligence team is a high-value resource, exceptionally skilled at locating and analyzing critical information from a variety of sources, often across jurisdictions and at multiple levels. In this particular instance, to provide the real community problem insights our clients seek. Led by Dr. Alison Shirley, the team includes highly qualified data analysts with extensive law enforcement analytical experience. Outstanding researchers and reviewers from our research core complete the team. The combined talents, critical thinking ability, and problem-solving expertise of both units make sense of information and convert it into accurate, actionable intelligence. The Business Intelligence and Research Core product is then provided to community safety specialists who are appropriately qualified, accredited, and experienced security consultants. They will assemble a response plan based on that actionable intelligence. It's not wholesale change. More often, this is a moving, omitting, or adjusting existing pieces exercise with the addition of validated best practice to plug gaps. This ensures that conflict between approaches is avoided through in-depth evaluation of overlap impacts. As it says on our slide, community safety specialists are applying the mending agenda to the offending agenda. Rudyard Kipling says in a quote, "I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who." We apply this principle to all our analysis. We ask ourselves, what do we know? What don't we know? And what don't we know that we should know? You've been introduced to 3 of our teams, so this is a good point in the proceedings to visit the CSAP team credentials at Lionsgate. We assemble teams to meet specific client needs and outcome requirements. We are a dedicated, coherent, and collaborative team who are appropriately licensed and accredited in our fields. In combination, we're equipped with the necessary knowledge, experience, skills, and abilities, which we consider the minimum standard for a private sector security entity looking to engage in public-private community safety partnerships. These include public sector municipality and policing, law enforcement experience, offender management experience, a high level of competence in analysis to convert information into actionable intelligence, a strong, established contextual research pedigree. I've already mentioned critical thinkers and problem solvers, behavioral assessment specialists, community safety and designing out crime specialists, skilled community engagement practitioners, highly competent environmental visual auditors, multi-agency community safety partnership working experience. There needs to be an understanding of crime science and criminological theory, an understanding of community crime dynamics, and insight into crime control and the politics of public safety. The CSAP applied by our team is an holistic full spectrum approach to mitigate crime and nuisance through the provision of balanced and complementary interventions. We're focused on enforcement, situational risk and opportunity reduction, social, community developmental and rehabilitation programs, where we seek to deliver balanced, appropriate, realistic, and cost-commensurate evidence-based solutions, and all delivered in a comprehensive client report. These solutions are prioritized and action plan ready, and those who should or could mend have been identified. To facilitate mender engagement, we provide a rationale and justification behind our allocation of responsibility. Repairing communities that suffer from high crime and nuisance requires a coordinated, cooperative, transparent agenda and approach. Those that properly measure performance and cost benefits will find direct and indirect cost savings are patently evident. Even though there is very little cost of crime research accessible through open source, crimes reduced equals public and private savings. It equals enhanced quality of life. It equals reduced emissions and delivers a more sustainable, social, economic, and greener environmental future. Currently, we rarely record the costs of each crime to the victim. We do not routinely assign values, nor do we routinely cost the dollar impact of responses. And that must change. Our CSAP is developed for all communities: residential, commercial, retail, industrial, urban, rural, for open spaces, in fact, diverse communities and any mix or combination of the above. This is because no neighborhood is defined by single use or zoning. The program can be sized for neighborhoods within jurisdictions because of the magnitude of the undertaking, but the methodology is transferable and repeatable. We incorporate the principles of recommendation and approach overlap by design, where economies of scale can be realized and both cause and effect are considered. Mitigating crime displacement, for example, is easy to say, but extremely hard to deliver. Jurisdictions have defined borders, offenders do not. Our CSAP addresses community crime, on-street crime, all visible crime, including drug-related crime, alcohol-related crime, violent crime, property crimes, crimes against the person. It seeks to impact on hidden or behind closed doors crime by providing guidance to positively impact on visible manifestations of and criminality risk factors by placing emphasis on the timely deliver of protective factors. Because of our experiential, empirical, and practical exposures, supported by an academic and theoretical understanding of the subject, we can home in on approaches that may on balance be detrimental to positive community safety outcomes. We know community crime dynamics. So let me give you some examples. Some harm reduction programs, such as safe drug consumption sites and needle distribution programs, can have unintended crime increasing consequences. Similarly, temporary homeless encampments can become crime and nuisance incident hubs. The CSAP is a product based on proven effective approaches. Its component parts have been successfully delivered in numerous communities in the United Kingdom, Northwest Europe, and here in Canada. I mentioned these earlier under CSAP in action. In each of these delivered projects, partners were willing partners working together to a shared outcome. Now, you've seen how we apply our program, but there is an unanswered question that needs to be addressed. Why do we think there is a niche for the CSAP in public-private partnership working to help deliver community safety in the public domain? In webinar part 2, which starts right now, I am specifically focused on the current delivery capability in public service and constraints in that delivery, and also making a case for the Lionsgate CSAP. The topics I speak to are many and too much to digest during this presentation. A recorded version of the whole presentation will be made available through the Lionsgate website for review. What follows are my observations and the challenges that face public service as I see them. I'm also signposting opportunities to make a seismic shift in approach. The subject area would take weeks to cover in detail, so really I'm just touching the surface. And if I appear selective, that's not my intent. Based on my background and experience and the status quo, I'm bringing this delivery safety communities discussion dish, which has serially been returned to the kitchen, back to the table again. Please excuse the analogy. And why am I doing this? Because there's nothing wrong with what is on the plate. It's educating the palate that is the issue. Crime prevention and preventive approaches more generally have been for decades and still are considered to be a Cinderella specialism, being last to be invited to the party and making do with the crumbs from the table in budget allocations. I also want to qualify my presentation from this point forward. I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to observe and provide a foundation to provoke thinking. I reiterate that I certainly invite comment post-event where your observations, constructive criticisms and questions can be aired. I may have some credible authority on this subject area, but I'm not the sole authority, and I recognize that. I appreciate that the current balancing crime reduction approaches is almost universally accepted as custom and practice, which would be a demotivation for change under any circumstances. So there is a mountain to climb for change. I simply ask that all public servants take stock and ask themselves whether what they are doing is improving community safety or going through the motions and giving the impression of delivering safer communities. I will be recommending a narrowing of focus for law enforcement by suggesting that additional peripheral tasks accumulated over decades be redistributed to others not only better placed to act, but arguably responsible for doing so. I will not be suggesting any reduction in budget because I'm equally clear all existing and future funding should be retained, maintained, or increased in line with demand, and to enhance traditional enforcement strategies. Enforcement is extremely effective, if only in the shorter to intermediate term, in crime reduction. When I speak of the role of municipalities in community safety, I'm again not focused on costing this layer of government more. In fact, quite the opposite. With the intelligence-led redistribution of responsibilities to other agencies and out to communities, costs will be more equitably spread. With overlapping multi-agency approaches designed and interwoven to ensure they're complementary and not contradictory, millions of dollars will be saved. Now, I will be repeating myself and probably have already during this presentation, but I won't apologize for that. It places extra emphasis. Does more need to be invested in community safety? Absolutely. And more heavily focused on criminality prevention. Does it come from law enforcement budgets? No. The CSAP report carefully redistributes responsibility with evidenced compelling rationale and justification. Now, I'm drawing on material used 9 years ago when I was a consultant on a University of the Fraser Valley Centre for Public Safety and Criminal Justice Research team. The presentation assembled for E-Division RCMP, entitled Moving Towards 100% Capacity. The author, Daryl Plekas, has managed to sandwich a high-profile political stint in the BC legislature between professorships at UFV Criminology and Criminal Justice. That presentation established there was no longer the capacity for police to fully service the community safety and crime reduction agenda. And nothing has moved in the last decade to suggest considered action or extensive action in response to those messages. Police capacity, as I've already emphasized, should be to traditional enforcement and also retaining critical community engagement functions. In the former, they excel, and in the latter, the appetite to secure trust, particularly among youth, is vital. Without it, the lifeblood of policing, intelligence, will drop off. I'm going to eat this elephant in 7 bite-sized chunks, which you can see here. The challenges for government are not immediate new challenges. They're consistent and they're ongoing. First, you have the rising costs of nearly everything. continually increasing competition for scarce resources. And it's worth pointing out that you don't need to provide resources to deal with crimes that don't happen. And all of this is against a backdrop of declining available funds. There is also a tendency for political leadership to be short-sighted. It's a function of election cycles and public demand. Quick wins and media spotlight will always be preferred over sustainable long-term results emerging for another political administration. Other public servancies are almost bound to fall into line with this short-termism, target setting and performance indicators and go with the flow. It will take more than one agency to turn the tide. This inevitably has an impact, a negative impact on resources and particularly policing resources. The CSAP is about reducing the burden on all public services while simultaneously delivering sustainably safer communities. Police capacity is challenged because crime is becoming more complex. Cybercrime is moving so quickly, it's almost impossible for law enforcement to keep pace. And we need to consider that there's also a significant tech skills gap between those operating in the cyber tech sector and police investigators. Investigations, while we're on the subject, are also becoming more complex. There are more demands, more steps, and compliance requirements, making investigation all so much more resource intensive. There is also increasing demand from courts in support of prosecution. The legal system, and particularly the courts, are not in great shape. They also lack capacity to supply court services to meet the steady stream of customers lining up to be processed. Consider also that some legislation actually hampers police work and provides anonymity protection for offenders. Sentencing practices, particularly shorter sentences, are a byproduct of a lack of capacity, and they promote a revolving door system and repeat business. There needs to be a fundamental change, but it seems likely it will continue to get worse given case precedents. And since time began, police have watched intelligence waiting for the release of bagged offenders so we can all play the game again. Declining crime rates and reports are in part a red herring as well, which is self-defeating for police law enforcers looking for additional resources. How do you make a business case for resources when reported crime is approximately 37% of actual crime? That's 63% of offences, responsible offenders and victims that don't even come onto the radar. Recorded crime figures are a flawed representation of levels of victimization. They can be massaged to tell a given story, can be misrepresented, and can mislead the public, lulling them into a false sense of security. There's a wide range of reasons why public don't report crime. And I will not delve into the details here because that's a broader discussion for another day. There exists an embedded way of doing things in law enforcement circles that plays strongly into post-victimization resourcing and focus. It is not the making of the current generation or recent generations, but an inherited custom and practice accepted on so many levels. It majors on detections, investigations, and arrests. It also produces demonstrable results, albeit limited by the duration of punishment meted out by the wider criminal justice system, and then only for the duration of sentence or while under offender management restrictions. Even victim support does what it says on the can and comes into play post-victimization. Wouldn't potential victim support be a better investment? Offender criminality programs and interventions also arrive late to the party, initiating protective actions for recidivists rather than newbies. That is, those yet to be labelled as criminals who might be deflected from a life of crime. How to effectively reduce crime is well documented, but will not be seen to take a large slice of the annual policing budget or public service budget anywhere until there is a step change in thinking. Actual non-criminal justice costs outside of policing, courts, and corrections, but often not elevated into the costs of crime discussion, are private security, personal security, pain and suffering, crime prevention time costs, stolen and damaged property I've just mentioned, insurance costs, productivity losses, business losses, and direct medical costs. These are not insignificant costs and are all costs incurred with negative economic impacts on a wide range of people and organizations. Sir Robert Peel, the father of policing, started the ball rolling in 1829 with the 9 Peelian principles. The 2 principles which resonate most here are: the basic mission for which the police exist is to prevent crime and disorder. The test of policing efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. That does not describe where we are right now at all, but it does signal perhaps why that extra to traditional policing baggage has been allowed to accumulate over time. Given what we now know about crime causation, those 2 principles might be better revised to remove the responsibility for preventing crime and disorder from the police alone to wider community safety partnerships. Zero tolerance and aggressive policing has been found to produce statistically insignificant changes in crime on average. It also runs the risk of damaging police-community relations, both locally and even at the national level. Zero-tolerance policing is based on the presumption that the communities that need the police the most are also the least likely to have strong community social institutions. The best-known example of zero-tolerance policing was its adoption in New York City in 1994. Information emerging since, however, also suggests the books were cooked in New York, so the heavily applauded results may well have been premature. For a wide variety of reasons, the task for law enforcement in delivering crime reduction is made even more difficult because of factors largely out of their control. What these collectively conspire to present our police services with are more law enforcement customers than should be the case. I want to expand on this because it also speaks to wider community safety partnership responsibilities. If effective social, developmental, and community strategies and programs, universally providing protective factors from early childhood to adulthood existed and were properly measured, less criminal justice system customers would emerge. That's an entirely logical progression of thought. Were all families well equipped and supported to nurture their children, to foster a positive personal makeup, then contributions to society are likely to be similarly positive. Another entirely logical progression. The same positive development experiences in schools, in communities with influential adults and peers, would have the same outcome, you would think. One inalienable fact that we find is that we find our level within those in our immediate lives and regularly around us. Internal constraints might be referred to as conscience, our nature. External constraints are visible and psychological influences outside of you that either increase risk if you pursue a damaging course of action or remind you strongly of the consequences awaiting if you do. Social and environmental factors may be accepted constructs, conventions, and conformity among those around you in the surrounding area. Situational factors will be security controls and technologies, the built environment, your anonymity or lack of, and the presence of capable guardianship. Opportunity is being confronted with temptation, and in the absence of any credible threat to pursuing that opportunity, how you respond. The rationale for these points just covered is to reason a move in the crime reduction needle and outside of policing budgets to direct more funds and responsibly towards criminality prevention rather than post-victimization crime prevention. Criminals passing through the revolving doors of criminal justice are why policing, courts, corrections, excuse me, and all other facets of the CJS are stretched beyond delivery of their intended terms of reference. The catch-22 in all of this is that the employment that comes with the wider criminal justice system is reliant upon a steady flow of customers to sustain and maintain it, and it is a major employer as well. The police are a catalyst in reducing crime to as close as zero as possible, but it should not be their main priority. That is for broader public service to lead, bringing all with a role to the table, other agencies, volunteer groups, business associations, and the community in general, on rebalancing their capacity to respond to current and emerging demands on police. We've already established that they cannot, not without redistributing responsibility to those competent to act and who are responsible for acting. For all public service, the business model should be focusing on return on investment. The public has supplied the resources. We're all paying, and we should have a reasonable expectation return on that investment. And it is for public services to collaborate to determine who does what to target zero crime and visibly deliver safer communities. The question at the end of the day is, how can the public get the best community safety return on investment from public service? The answer is by being educated to understand what happens to their tax dollars, and once surprised by the revelations, to lobby and influence change to the current post-victimization mindset in criminal justice, and also with criminality reduction and harm reduction agencies, where the focus should be on tackling root cause rather than symptoms. For advanced crime prevention through environmental design, or the Safe Design Standard, which is our preferred version of SEPTED, should be required by law in new projects and developments. For situational and opportunity reduction, initiatives among partners should be given a greater focus, proactively. All of the above would be allowing police law enforcement to provide a thicker blue line between what should eventually be a reducing number of offenders and the legitimate law-abiding community. Is what works in community safety undersold and under-adopted? The answer is yes, absolutely. Community safety is too often overlooked in public service to any significant degree. The problem-solving attention to detail and the degree of professionalism attending to it is often lacking. The public service community safety agenda is also as much about politics as it is about business operation. In a research, or rather resource-type public service budget climate, the outcome is often community safety initiative dilution and tokenism, instead of focused, robust, intelligence-led attention being directed to areas of greatest need. Driving this approach, and a saving grace for public officials at the wheel, is that the short-term impact can often appear positive, and the organizational and personal reputations that should arguably be called into question are protected by short-term success. Sadly, initiatives rarely see sustained success, and by the time things go awry, the memory of what was promised and who might have promised it may well have already been tied to history. Public service capacity to respond should be redirected into servicing immediate resource challenges, pursuing strategic objectives, and in developing and cultivating relationships. Right in the relationships mix here is partnerships. And for the purposes of this input, private sector security partnerships, who can take up some of that historically misplaced community safety burden by guiding the reallocation of responsibilities where they should be in other agencies or communities. Let's close out this presentation by asking some core questions of law enforcement to provoke thinking. Now, many of these questions will be interpreted as falling exclusively to the law enforcement purview, but they are equally applicable to municipalities and any public service agencies with a stake in community safety. What should you be doing that you're not already doing with your high risk and low risk criminal populations? What are you doing that you should not be doing, or that could be done more effectively by others in your high risk and low risk criminal populations? To what degree are your efforts oriented towards preempting issues, behaviors, and activities before they become crime problems? Which of the service activities currently expected of your agency by government do you really need to provide? Which of the activities that you currently undertake do you feel that you should no longer participate in or could be better provided by others? What are the activities that you should be doing that you're not currently providing, if any? To what degree are the activities in your agency research-driven and evidence-based? How do you measure the effectiveness and efficiency of your activities? What process do you have in place to ensure that your research and evaluation informs your practices? Do you have access to relevant data? Which organizations should you partner with that you do not currently partner with? What processes and mechanisms are in place to hold you, your unit, and your agency accountable for achieving set goals and your overall mandate? And the final question, what processes and mechanisms should be in place to improve your accountability and that of your unit and your agency? I want to wrap up by thanking you for taking the time today. Please feel free to give me a call to discuss any of the content, or by sending me an email to michaelfranklin@lgrmg.ca. To sum up, and in my view, public-private partnerships are the future, but only if those private partners bring the right credentials to the table, the right degree of sophistication in methodology, and deliver robust, evidence-based, balanced solutions. Thank you.